Hello, everybody, and welcome to this episode of Two Bears Podcast. This episode, I have to put kind of a warning out there because we will be addressing Noma, and the allegations of abuse that have been levied against that kitchen and that chef, and some of the abuse that Zev and I have experienced in our career and our thoughts on it. Uh, there is a language warning on this, and there is a topic warning on this. So you have been warned. Enjoy the show. So one of my favorite stories. So I like I said, worked at Oliveto. Was my externship, and at Oliveto, I'm working my way up through, My externship was done, and they talked me into staying longer to help with their truffle dinners because they would bring in truffles, like literally we would have like the first truffles in the San Francisco Bay area,
Mm.
and we actually sold to a lot of the other restaurants our truffles. And so I'm sitting there, and uh chef had a we would sit there at and we'd have round table, right? So everyone would sit there before service. He would go over the menu, you would get your prep list, and then you'd do your prep list, and then your demo plates had to be in the pass at 4:30. So 4:30 you would put your demos in the pass. And one time I put my demo in the pass, and I'm working salad station. So I'm sitting there and I put my demo in the pass, and next thing you know, I just see my salad just like dumped out onto the cutting board. And he just lays into me. And he's like, this salad is supposed to have grilled figs. Where are the grilled figs? And I mean, just you know, dressing me down in front of everyone. And I'm sitting there, and I'm the low guy on the totem pole. And so I'm just taking the beating. At which point, one of the other cooks who was in the menu reading with me goes, "Chef, you didn't tell him that he was supposed to put figs in the salad." And he's like, "What?" He goes, "No, you didn't tell him." And so literally just the switch goes off. He's like, "Okay, done. I'm going to need you to grill some figs, and we're going to put some great figs on the salad." It was so you had to have it. So you needed everyone to like write down because he'd forget to tell you, and then you'd
Yeah,
go and put stuff in the pass, and it was, he'd freak out. And if you
that's why
didn't,
we do recipes.
if
Let
you
me turn the light on in here.
but the cool place about Oliveto is you would get this is the dish, this is what's going to be. So if you were working salad station and you had to make all of these different vinaigrettes, you made all the vinaigrettes. I mean, there was no recipe handed to you. You made the vinaigrette. It would
Oh,
You would always take it to the chef to be tested, and he would taste it. But if you were on salad station and you were making vinaigrettes, the one question you always had to ask was, "Am I macerating the shallots or not? Are the shallots going in and I'm going to be straining them out, or do you want the shallot in the final dressing?" Uh, and so and this is the other part about it, and this is the cool thing about staging and making relationships and working in kitchens that are of a high caliber. And high caliber not necessarily is the chef itself, but also all the crew that works underneath him. And uh, it was at Oliveto, and it was for the truffle dinner, and I was tasked with cutting all of the root veg. And so with the root veg, uh, I was told that he wanted them diced. So I had carrots,
gosh.
I had carrots, I had celery root, I had
My
turnips.
effect on root veg is the worst, bro.
So I get to do
Right here.
the root veg. And so I have to have all of this prepped, and he wants it diced, and it has to be all prepped and up by like 3:30 in order that they can roast it and have everything ready for service. And so I'm in the downstairs cafe kitchen. And so I'm just doing my prep, doing my prep, doing my prep, peeling all these vegetables, literally have cases going through and getting all of my dice, no little ends, no little points, everything is perfect. And then one of the cooks comes running down the stairs is like, "Don, do you have the veg? Do you have the veg?" I'm like, "Yeah, this is what I got, but I'll keep going." And I hand her the roasting pan. And it was like one of those really big, heavy gauge roasting pan that has like the steel band that runs underneath it.
Yeah.
And so this thing is like full. And so she runs up the stairs, and all I hear is expletive, expletive. He's worthless, expletive.
Oh,
And and then I hear the pan hit the floor.
oh,
And I mean, and so we're talking about, a tile floor, subflooring, joists, and like you could just hear this thing just crash on the floor. And then you hear him go, take this back down to him and tell him that it was supposed to be small dice. He didn't tell me small dice. He told me dice. What he wanted me to do is he wanted me to take each one of those dice
quarter it.
and make small dice, which is
Quarter.
like, what's that?
Almost impossible.
Yeah, I mean, it's just
You could quarter it, but I mean, if you take a perfect dice and you quarter it, it's a
right,
little smaller than a
right.
than a dice is supposed to be.
And so Gillian comes running downstairs, and is just like, Chef wants you to cut these into small dice, and literally every single ounce of wind was taken out of my sails, because here I worked so hard to give the chef what he wanted, and I
I
delivered.
told you, you're a worthless piece of shit. These are wrong. Do it again.
And and so and so I'm sitting there, and I'm just like, okay, and as no sooner as I'm like together to put my, to start doing this, because mind you, now I'm under a time crunch.
Now you're under a crazy time crunch and you have an insane task ahead of you.
Right. And so next thing you know, the cooks start walking in through the cafe with boxes of root vegetable. What they did is they distracted the chef, grabbed more product, snuck out the back, came downstairs, and were literally elbow to elbow with me, just and just like knocked this whole thing out.
That's
And it was
amazing.
and it was like one of those things where like no one said a word, like because they were hiding, to get this done. And so to the chef, it looked like I knocked this out in 20 minutes. Like I took his whole entire thing and
But were
just
they
like,
doing that to support you, or were they doing that because they knew that the whole restaurant would be on fucking
no,
fire?
they were doing that to support me.
That's
I
amazing.
mean, because I mean, it was the type of crew that if they didn't if they
One
didn't
team, one dream, baby.
if they didn't support you, they would let you burn. They would let
Yeah.
you burn and die out. I mean, that's the type of kitchen it was. But it was like one of those things where they're just down there, just quiet, just boom, 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 fill this thing up and go upstairs. And I mean, you could actually hear how surprised this guy was that I was able to take all of that small dice, wink, wink, and cut it and quarter it for service.
See, like I think 10 years ago, had I heard this story, I would have been 100% with your chef. I would have been like, Doug, it's not the dish. Like,
Right.
it's not the dish. You gave me a dice. I asked for a small dice. It's not the dish.
The thing is he never
Now
told
I'm
me
the
small
kind of
dice.
chef that's like, if you give me, yeah, yeah, no, that is that is
Right.
fine. Because I also have definitely gone up to people in prep and been like, "What is this?" And they're like, "Chef, you told me to do exactly this." And I'm like, "Oh yeah, nice, cool." Yeah. Or I'm like, "Where is this?" And they're like, "What are you talking about?" And I'm like, "This this is part of the dish." And they're like, "You never told us that." And I'm like, "Sick, plausible." Now I'm the kind of chef that if I told you to small dice and you brought me a full pan of dice, that's the dish now, baby. Like
Yep, that's what we're doing.
we're rolling with it. It's just to me, like I understand the perfection of food, but I feel like I've gotten to a place in cooking where it's like if you know what you're doing, you can make anything awesome. And yeah, it might not be exactly what it's supposed to be, but we
Right.
can still make it amazing. And like the guests don't know. That's the thing. This is the thing you learn as a consultant. Because as a
Right.
consultant, right, you go to a tier three city. You try to set up something amazing. You hire whoever you can. A lot of the times you got to do a bunch of temps too. And like the level that I want things to be at might not necessarily be the level in which it gets started at.
right,
Hopefully it can get to there, but like sometimes you got to open and it's not where you want it to be. I'm like, I go to the other consultants I'm working with, and I'm like, bro, like every single plate that's going out is making me so mad. And he's like, Zev, look around the dining room. And the guests
right,
are right. The guests are having the time of their lives. They are loving the food. And that's really what matters. So
right.
I don't know. I feel like in the end of the day, like, also like I guess Noma lives in its own universe of it can abuse and do whatever it wants because in the end of the day, it's the best restaurant in the
Right.
world, and people are gonna come. Guests are gonna
So,
come, stages are gonna come, chefs are gonna apply. Like nothing is gonna stop that machine, you know?
so where are you going to put Marco Pierre White into this realm?
That's okay.
Where do
So I don't know Marco Pierre White personally. I don't know Renee
right,
personally. I don't know Marco Pierre White personally. I don't even know. I'm a little shocked that you said his name because I don't know his reputation. I know he was with Gordon Ramsay in the beginning, so I can only imagine what
right,
level of fuckery was going on in those kitchens. Marco Pierre White now is a very classy and chill person.
right?
I'm not sure.
I mean, because in his
Where do
book,
you put Gordon Ramsay? Gordon Ramsay built his entire platform off
well,
of abusing
so
people.
so I think it was like Marco Pierre White's his book opens with him throwing the cheese display, the cheese platter against the wall and not letting anybody clean it up. It had to stay there for service so everyone could see the ineptitude of the maitre d' for pulling out the cheese.
You know what? Anthony Bourdain made his entire brand off of Kitchen Confidential, which
Right.
glorified that universe of like badass pirate, psychotic ex-con federal inmate prison.
So so uh
Prison kitchen.
so a friend of mine in Scotland used to work for Gordon Ramsay. And so I asked him one day, I'm like, so what is like Gordon Ramsay, what we see on TV?
Worked for him, like with him present.
Yeah, worked in his kitchens.
Okay, no, because Rido, my chef, like a guy, and worked at Gordon's 3-star, but I don't think he had much like direct interaction with Gordon.
And so he told me I asked him, for what we see on Hell's Kitchen and all that kind of stuff, uh, is that what he's like in the kitchen? Because it's I understand the sarcasm, I understand like what he's saying and
Idiot
kind
sandwich.
yeah, you know. So so I asked him like, is he like that in the kitchen? He goes, I've never seen him. He's passionate about what he says. I mean, he says, things. The only time he ever saw him get physical was he saw he saw Gordon toss a prep station. So basically, he took the whole guy's prep station. It was like one of those little flip top things with like sandwich board and prep underneath, and he literally took the whole entire thing and flipped it over with all of its mise en place, all of that. And so I asked him, and he goes, "But you have to hear me out." he, he goes, "The week before, Chef Ramsay was going through this guy's station, and he was finding old mise en place stuff that was out of date, things that were just bad." And it's one thing that you would never want to see on a plate going out to the dining room. And basically, he was told, you need to clean up your station, you need to square this, you need to get rid of all of your old stuff, you need to prep new stuff, and this needs to be spotless. And
I wasn't.
and that was that. He left. A week later, he comes back into the kitchen and he's like, goes through this guy's station, and it's the same as it was before. And it got flipped.
Okay, so but do you think the correct response is to flip the station or to just tell the guy to do it again
I mean,
or to fire him for food safety violations, you know?
I mean, that's. I mean, the thing is, like, I'm not sure. I'd have to have the relationship with the guy to fire him like that. I wouldn't definitely would not flip the station. But it's kind of like it's like if you can't. So what I do is we do I do smart plans, and it's like it's even forget what it stands for, but it's my wife actually taught it to me, and it's basically a plan to help the person
Like a
become
pit,
better at whatever it is they're supposed to be doing. It's
like a performance improvement plan.
yeah, and so it's like this is what the task is, and you work through that, and basically people will fire themselves. I mean, that's
The
basically what it comes.
PIP, the performance improvement plan. That's
Right.
corporate for we're trying to fire you. Here's the path for you to get yourself fired.
For me, I don't really see. I really want to see people grow and succeed. Like that's
100%.
truly, what I use that for. Uh, and then every once in a while, I have to sit down with the person and just be like, listen, standards aren't being met.
So your story reminds me of a news story. I don't remember if it was in New York or California, but there was a whole report done about people caught on video, police officers going to a hot dog stand and like dumping it out on the floor. And they're like, why, like abuse, ruining this dude's livelihood, whatever. Turns out, dude was selling expired hot dogs. So do I necessarily agree with the way the police handled it? No. But like, was their method effective? Yes. I don't know. I don't know if Gordon Ramsay is even like cancelable, bro, I think he's recrafted his image. He has the kids shows.
Right,
He's very good with children. Um, and he's just such an icon at this point. Um, I don't know, man. Honestly, like I just don't think it's okay to treat people like shit like that?
yeah, I,
Like I don't know. I don't know. Does Gordon Ramsay have to be stripped of everything? It's impo First of all, it's impossible. He's like a net worth of $300 million. Like you're not gonna,
right,
you force him to close his restaurants. How? Like
right,
would he apologize? Absolutely. I feel like he would genuinely apologize. I don't think he's a bad person. I think he comes from that age of abusive chefs, and also like the world fed into it
right,
and platformed him for it. So who's to blame? Is he to blame or is society to blame for that?
right,
But the same thing, the same argument could be made about abuse in kitchens, I think, is that we as a society of industry have accepted, that working a million hours is proof of how committed you are. And like
right,
abuse is just part of, like the pursuit of perfection. And like, I'm not trying to victim blame, but like there is to some degree we collectively enabled it to happen and let it run unchecked. And I
right.
don't know, maybe now is the reckoning. It's probably the beginning of a Me Too restaurant edition, which is going to be crazy because if you're an insider,
Right.
bro, the shit
Yeah,
that the shit that many famous chefs that people idolize do is insane.
when I was working for Marriott, I had a reputation of making people cry because
Nice.
I made this 250 pound Puerto Rican guy cry once, and and it's this and it's I'm laughing about it because it's funny. But it was one of those deals where it's like it was a 120-hour week. We're putting in 120 hours this week. It's just going to be insane, and
That's
we were like on day 6, and Alex he was sitting there, and we would like everything was made from scratch in the kitchen, right? So Alex was making tomato concasse. And so if we were cooking for 2,000 people, we'd make tomato concasse by hand for 2,000 people. And
those of you who don't know, that involves blanching and peeling little tomatoes, which is
yeah,
a pain.
yeah, so you have to take the skin off, you have to take the seeds out, and then you have to dice it.
Yeah.
And I was happy with that. I was happy with the regular dice. It didn't even have to be small dice. Uh, but but Alex is sitting there and he's just kind of like he's tired and he's just kind of womping at the tomatoes. And so I come.
Passata,
What's that?
making passata.
Yes. And so I come walking over and I'm like, Alex, I know the work that you're capable of. I know the work that you can do, and the work that you're doing right now is not that. And I just kept on walking. And I didn't, it wasn't out loud, like no one else in the kitchen, because this is a four-person prep area. So there was
Jesus,
three other
bro.
cooks like right next to him. None of those guys heard what I said. All they saw me is lean down, say something in his ear, and keep on walking. And all of a sudden, Alex just starts bawling, just crying right on station.
Oh.
And everyone's just like, "Oh my gosh, Chef just made him cry." Everyone else just starts buckling down and, and like knocking stuff out. And it's the only reason it happened is because, at this point he's 80 hours in, or he's probably even closer to 100 hours in, and he's tired, exhausted, and he knew that I had standards, and that he wasn't quite doing it, and felt guilty. And that's I didn't it's the
You
only
didn't
reason
make
why.
him, you didn't make him cry.
No, no.
You didn't make
But
him cry.
but the
He
but
he
but the
cried because he realized that he was a high achiever and he was
yes,
not doing his best, and he
right.
still had 40 hours to go.
Exactly. And it was like one of those things, but everyone else was like, it's like he made him cry. He made him cry. And so, yeah, I got the reputation of making people cry.
Well, that's okay. I have the reputation of being batshit insane. So, like,
Well,
I didn't even know that, and I was talking to this Thai dude who opened a restaurant, soy Thai street food, and he's friends with the sushi chef that I was the exec chef over at Gecko. And I was like, "Oh, you know my boy And he's like, "Yeah." And I was like, "How's he doing?" And he was like, "He's good. He says he misses you. He says you're absolutely insane." And I was like, I did not realize I gave off that impression at all. But I guess that's what makes me crazy.
I was described by a food writer as particular.
That's
And
not
it's
bad.
like everyone who's read that article who knows and works with me was like, that's it. That is the adjective that describes you, particular. Because it's like it has to be this way. And but I'm like that for certain things. Other things I couldn't care less. And
I'm like that with broken sauces. It can't be fucking broken. Like,
yeah, no, uh chives, green onion.
I'm like that with
Like
chives, bro. I give everyone the lecture of the chives are the representation of our soul in the kitchen. When you go to a restaurant and the chives are ugly, you know their restaurant is filthy. The kitchen is disgusting. They don't care about anything they do. They're animals in there. How do I know they're animals? Because they think that the chive is an afterthought. And if they're this sloppy with this, imagine how sloppy they are with like stock or sauce.
my daughters are gonna laugh when they hear this. It's one of those things, like I can hear when someone's cutting a chive or a green tip from across the kitchen.
Hear
I
the
can
tear.
I can hear how sharp their knives are.
Yeah.
And it's like I'm just like, stop. This doesn't have to die twice.
You're
You know
bruising the chives.
exactly. I'm like, when you don't, it's inevitably when it comes time for chives, it's like they set me up the station,
Yeah.
and I'll come over and I'll cut the chives.
Yeah, I teach everyone in the kitchen how to cut chives like almost day one.
Right.
We're setting up like because bro, there is not a single station in my kitchen that doesn't have chives on it.
Well, that's like it was funny because the very first time I cooked with you, you had me do the chives.
Oh
Like
yeah,
no one
talked
else.
about this then too. We talked about the sound of chives back
Yep.
then too.
How they can scream when they're being
Yeah,
murdered.
I mean, I basically say the same about all herbs and greens. I'm like, you got one shot. You're cutting it once. When I tell you to chop something, I don't mean chop it. I mean chiffonade it. And when I
Right.
say chiffonade, I mean do it like this and do not go back through it.
Right.
Like it's hard though, man. The truth is the level of cooking that's represented in fine dining is like probably 1% of the dining world, which translates into really like 1 to 5% of the chefs in the pool, like cooks, everyone,
Right.
the BOH pool has any experience.
Thank you for tuning in to episode 3. I will be releasing episode 4 shortly.